Hey everybody, we haven't done one of these videos in a while, but this is actually a very good format for us to do our video today. Now, a few weeks back, we talked about this person named Brad who was featured on CNBC's. It's like a series called Make It, I believe, where they basically feature people who've left the United States due to high cost or wanting a different life. And a lot of them are actually people who moved to China. So Brad Cray is this person's name, and they did this whole video on China. So
I liked living.
out the sound, but you can see basically he was featured on this video as living in Shenzhen, being married, two kids, how safe, how nice, how everything is cheap in Shenzhen in China. He makes about he used to make 4,500 USD a month. Now he makes a little less, I believe around 3,700. And basically he details through this how his apartment is nice. He doesn't pay much for rent. He groceries and foods. Yeah, so you see here that his salary is around 3,700 per month as a social media marketing manager, I believe. Okay, so basically the credit to this whole investigation is with Whipling, who is actually his real name is Sean Haynes. He used to work. He's a British man, but he used to work in Chinese state media. But since I believe 2021, he's been writing about some of the things happening in China. So this is him finding out, doing an expose on Brad Cray. Okay, so uh, Bradley Cray is from North Carolina. His wife, who was also featured in the video, was born in Tahiti to Chinese parents, but they both are currently living in Shenzhen. And this video gained a lot of tractions online. Like it was shared widely by Chinese state media personalities, by CCP shells. People basically using the idea that China's cheaper, but you get a safer, a better quality of life. Like the idea that while earning $4,700, which was his old salary. Rent is $1,000, groceries $100, $300 for two kids to go to kindergarten. Healthcare is $90. Like that's paradise, American cost of living could never match to that. And or the spokesman to the U.S. Embassy for China, the Chinese U.S. Embassy, says that this is the living the China vibes. Shenzhen Media Group says, "Welcome to Shenzhen. The reversed American dream. Leave," joked CGTN's Li Jingjing. Now, behind this story is what's interesting because this guy's experience, he detailed most of it contrary to what he now portrays in one of his self-published memoir in 2024. So according to Sean, he found that Cray not only had a long history in China, he self-published a book through Amazon about it, and the bio promised a hellish, non-fictional account of the unconventional life of chaos that Bradley endured and thrived on while teaching English in Shenzhen, China. It also enticingly dangled he's seen the chilling confines of a Chinese jail. Now, this book is out of print, but like you can't, I wasn't able to find a copy online, so I don't know how Sean did, but this is the book. It's called God is a Turtle, Teaching English Abroad, the Rock Cut. Okay, seemingly like after he went back to China, he made this book, like he took it down because some of the stuff that was said in here. But anyways, the point is Sean found a book, and here's what he says in the book. So the book is called God is a Turtle. It says, "Once again, I was on a plane heading back to China, buying and having drugs shipped through the mail in a zero tolerance country." Yeah, so China on paper doesn't allow any recreational drugs. Teaching on an illegal visa and the many other things I did for the sake of an adventure I expected to be locked up. So in one of the lines he says here, I could see an old grandpa holding a naked baby over a trash can to take a crap in the middle of the sidewalk. Rice Cray in one particular vivid sentence. It's fair to say that the book paints a very different picture of China than the ones shown in his TikTok videos today. So Brad does these TikTok videos. He basically, his job now is filming stuff like how he lives in China, post them on TikTok to make Americans feel like that this is how great China is. So this is his job. And he's garnered over 200,000 fans, I believe. In July 2025, he opened the TikTok account Brad in China, which is in less than a year amassed 227,000 followers, 2.3 million likes. His content is of typical many foreigners turned influencers in China, with flattering titles like "The parks in China are so amazing, the streets are so clean." The typical CCP shilling stuff, right? Like China's so safe, the food's so cheap, streets are so clean, all those things. Anyway, so let's go back to his book. His book details his upending from North Carolina to teaching on a TEFL in East Asia, essentially teaching English. Over 139 pages, Cray ticks the worst cliches of every washed-out expat you've met. He gets drunk daily. He takes ayahuasca, I believe that's what it is, in Colombia. He visits Asian brothels and sex shows. He goes to Cambodia's killing fields, stoned, and he's arrested twice to elevate these events with some sort of meanings. He interpurses with torturous passages of cod philosophy, lines like "We're all travelers and warriors in the realm of time waiting for transcendence." Anyways, basically the idea is that so he released his book after he had left China. What happened was In 2024, or at least sometimes before 2024, he had left China because his drug dealer, yes, drug dealer, was arrested. So he didn't want to get arrested either. So he left China. But his first whole stint in China was 2016 to 2020. Cray admits he worked illegally on a tourist visa, first as a teacher at an extracurricular school, then as a private tutor. When his education center is raided, Cray spends a night in jail, is questioned by the police, watches an inmate crap in a bucket, and escapes with a 10,000 yuan fine payable by his boss. He's lucky during his period, 500,000 foreigners were caught doing the same, with a majority, 351,000, instantly deported and barred from re-entering China ever again. But that's not the only crime he admits to. Cray talks about repeatedly wanting to push boundaries to see where he can get away with. I was passed a WeChat account for a man that supposedly shipped drugs straight to your door. I sent the man a message. I also sent payments. So here he basically talks about taking LSD, and then just doing drugs. And then here, Sean talks about why he thinks suddenly Cray doesn't want his book to get out. Sean says, I'm flabbergasted that not only has he returned to China after writing it, but he's also pursuing fame and attention. He seems to have forgotten his own under the radar advice. What I think happened was he was allowed to return to China on the condition that he would talk praises about China. He would make content about China that would use his American, persona and American expat sort of experience and position to talk praises about the CCP in China. Okay, so this is the part I was talking about. So basically, he found out his dealer was arrested, and then he flees to Hong Kong from Shenzhen, which is just a mountain over, and yeah, so basically he's just talking about the drug stuff, right? Okay, so here's the part that's interesting, because in the CNBC video, he specifically emphasizes the idea that he found the American dream in China. Now, this is not the first time Cray has deployed his "I had to go to China to find the American dream" line. It pops up several times in the book. So this is from the book. The new American dream was in a country I once thought was nothing more than rice fields and overpopulated cities. The price of living was so low, the food so cheap. I was finally the king. I think this is the issue here. It's a lot of people thinking that, as an expat, you go live in China or anywhere in East Asia, pretty much Southeastern Asia too, is because you use the dollar, because the overall life quality of living and the cost of living is much lower. You basically get to do whatever you want as an expat. You're treated differently. You're more special. You get paid more. They even subsidize your living, subsidize you. In this case, in my opinion, he's getting most of his stuff subsidized. Like his rent is subsidized, his kindergarten, healthcare, even I think groceries. Maybe they could get subs. I talked about this in my other video, but you could get subsidized for a lot of these things, right? Especially if you are doing the work that's trying to, make China look good. So this is it, according to Sean says, this is the kernel that underpins every "wow, China's so cheap" clickbait video made by foreigners today. No thought is given to how or why or what suffering might enable such low prices. No, just, I am finally the king. Now, Brad earns about the equivalent to 32,000 yuan a month, which is a lot of money for a Chinese person to be earning. Cray today earns 5 times the average for Shenzhen locals. By the way, 30,000 yuan a month is like a senior engineer or a manager at a top company, and about 9 times the China average. It's the equivalent ratio of earning 362,000 USD a year back in his native North Carolina. Essentially, that's what a doctor or a lawyer would make. Numerous studies have shown the key to happiness is not greater wealth, but greater wealth comparable to your surroundings. Of course, life is lovely for you. I think that's the key, right? It's he's living the American dream in China. It's because he gets special, right? This is nobody else gets to enjoy the American dream in China as a Chinese regular person, but you do get to enjoy that because you're an American living in China. Now, Cray not only understands this white privilege, he revels in it. Says here, I was the perfect fit. This is the most effed up part, but I wrote that way because why not? Being tall, blonde hair, and blue-eyed from a native English-speaking country, almost any school or training center would hire me immediately without caring. Yeah, because a lot of times in China, rule of law, where rules aren't really they're malleable, they're bendable, right? Cray can't believe his luck. Everything was becoming too easy. Everything seemed like it was being handed to me on a golden platter. It was like being famous without being famous. Okay, so Sean says here, I suddenly realized that the book is a good counterweight to the CNBC profile. There, he projects his American dream in terms of clean streets, cheap bills, safety for his kids. Here, though, he describes it as a sudden rush of financial freedom, white privilege, and hedonism without consequences. So essentially, like every typical expat that goes to Asia, this guy is talking about, like, most of the book takes place in chicken bars. Chicken essentially is a Chinese slang for prostitution. In Thailand, he went there to red light districts. Cambodia, he did the same. But basically, like, that's the stuff that they did. And then he somehow met his girlfriend, who later now is his wife. And So I guess at some point they broke up, but later they got married or something like that. I'm not so sure, but because I didn't read the book. But anyways, the point is, return to China. After a few small trips to China testing the waters to see if he'd be picked up by police, Cray moved back to Shenzhen in June 2025 so he could work again as an English teacher. Soon he discovered, like thousands of others today, the instant fame of a foreigner can achieve if they make videos praising everyday life in China. In July 2025, he opened the TikTok account Brad in China. This is the part where he gets 220,000 followers, gets interviewed by CNBC as if he's like some magical miracle making person that found his success in China. Uh, so basically, it got him a better job, even though he pays the actual job pays less at 3,500 a month. It seems like he's able to make more on the social media and other things. So I expect this number of uh 47. Wait, oh, sorry. I think earlier I said 3,700, but it's actually 4,700. So that's even more, right? So $4,700. Yeah, it's a decent chunk of money. I think honestly, even if you lived in the U.S., like $4,700 a month, that's pretty good for if you're living in like like a medium sized town, or if you budget well, right? It's not big. It's not very comfortable in today's sort of cost of living, but it's good. It's a good amount of money, right? Even in the United States, in my opinion, and that's like one person working. So if you have two incomes, then it will be double that most likely. Anyways, the point is, this strange reversal in the book, he writes, the TikTok generation rose from the ashes like a mentally ill phoenix. Before the rise of this app, it had never been so clear how many incompetent slugs we had amongst us, wasting the oxygen of our society. So Brad not only is a hypocrite in terms of his view of China not being the perfect or you know the humane, because he spent most of his time as an expat doing the stuff that expats would do, but he also went back on his view of TikTok. So, as Sean says here perfectly, this wouldn't be another grift in action, would it? Finally, the overall verdict from Sean as a book: terrible prose, unlikable protagonist, 2 stars. As a quick way to kibosh a blossoming China Wow TikTok career and get Chinese police knocking on your door, great effort. So I really enjoyed this read from Sean Haynes. Actually, I'm not too familiar with his work, but it seems like Sean is he left after COVID, and he has since been sort of talking and writing about a lot of stuff happening in China. So yeah, if you want to subscribe to his Substack, it's very interesting read so far. But just so you know, guys, like a lot of the stuff that you see online, especially even being featured by mainstream media like CNBC, this is a financial channel, like a mainstream one that is that they don't really care about what leads to somebody being in this position. Like making 4,700 a month, what does that actually look like in China? And is that a real reflection of the Chinese society, which it's not, right? So, but I think the point here is that Brad showcases what what we view is great. It's superior from the vantage point of being in the US. Is that, look, you could have a better life in China at much cheaper prices and much cheaper spendings and much better quality of life if you just be like, be the same as what I did and just move here. They don't account for the fact that they get special access. They probably are going to be, treated much better. They probably get paid much better. They get subsidies, which is not how the actual quality of living is like in China. And I can't drill this, hard enough that this is not the reality of China, right? This is the reality of an American person in China. The example I gave in my original video was like, I could go to, I'm a YouTuber. I can go live in Thailand. I can get a $500 luxury apartment, and I can basically live like a king for the entire year as long as I'm not violating my visa, that I can just simply be there and do whatever I want. And I can say that, yeah, I'm living the American dream in Thailand. I can do, but it doesn't mean other Thai or any country for that matter is actually living through that. So I think this is the part that really people are obsessed over China for, which I just don't understand. But anyways, I just wanted to make this video to add more details as to why we should not take what they say in these videos, especially about China, with its like facial, like frontal, sort of immediate interpretation, right? Because most of these people, in my opinion, are paid by the CCP to do this. And yet the American media is too dumb to pick up on that. Anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comments, and thank you very much for watching this episode. If you enjoyed this type of format where we kind of talk a little bit just about some of the stories, let me know your thoughts in the comment, or if you do like it, let me know in the comments as well. And thank you very much for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.